Hello, good afternoon, welcome to all. This is me, and I'm with them. Yes, it's the ABW radio show live. It's Kris. Hello to all. As you'll probably be aware by the chat box, I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen this afternoon from two different parts of the world. So we are every bit worldwide in the ABW land. So first up, I'm joined by Mr. Jason Schrader, all the way over in the USA, in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, Jace.
Cheers, yes, North Carolina, North Kakalaki,
North Kakalaki,
as the slang users would say.
Indeed, we like a bit of slang. We're also joined from Durban in South Africa by Mr. Tim Hargreaves. Good afternoon, Tim, or evening,
Good
or morning,
evening, Kris.
or whatever it is. What is it over there?
It's now just gone 7 p.m. So evening.
Evening, good stuff.
Evening, yes.
We're 2 hours behind you here, and God knows what we are behind Jace nowadays. Daylight savings changed everything.
Yeah,
so.
you guys are four hours ahead of us. Which
There.
would mean I think that would make Tim 6 hours ahead of us.
So we've pretty much got every angle of the world covered on time zone at this point.
Yep.
And mine's one of the few countries that does not do daylight savings.
Because you're smart. That's why.
Because we're smart. Yeah,
because
that's
you're
it.
smart.
The clocks don't change, yeah.
Well, before... What are we doing here? What is the point of us being here? Afternoon to everybody in the chat box, by the way. I'll read some names out in a moment. Before we go into today's game, could we just take a brief moment just to have a little laugh at Chelsea? Is that all right? Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
What a horrid bunch. Sorry, there's the first C block. We've only a minute in.
I actually will say this, and I tweeted it out the other day. His distraction tactic this week that Mourinho used to sort of clear away to sweep the loss under the rug was he was complaining about commentators, getting on to current players, which actually, when you think about it, is probably the most accurate and true thing he's ever stated in his life. And I agree with it 100% because I remember Carragher would practically just go up and put his arm around referees every time he thought something was wrong. I mean, it was ridiculous, and now he's the one slating them all. It's just, it was the one thing I've probably ever in my life agreed on Mourinho on. I had to take a shower after I realized I agreed with him just to make sure I wasn't dirty as he was.
Oh, absolutely. I put a tweet out on Wednesday evening, and I think it said something along the lines of that awkward moment when you cheer a goal for another side against Chelsea as much as you would for the sides that you support. Never loved David Luiz so much in my life. Probably never will again, but that's another story. Anywho, let's leave that horrid bunch alone and let's get into today. So Arsenal 3, West Ham 0. I was sort of following this game on Arsenal Player and thinking, 1-0, we haven't really got a lot to talk about. This is quiet. And then typical Arsenal decided to fuck that all up and go, no, we're not done yet. And we'll come on to the third goal scorer because I thought the world was going to end when I saw that flash up on my timeline. But I'll go to Jace first of all for your sort of overall thoughts on the game and sort of general musings on the day.
Yeah, I'm not awake yet here. Maybe something. People are saying it's a classic Arsenal performance. I don't think it's necessarily as vintage Arsenal as we might be thinking. I do think we played well today. I think there's still a lot of potential that we're not using at the moment in terms of how we're playing. I think it was I think the way I summed it up to myself around the 75th minute when I was just thinking about everything overall was we're playing a very professional game. We're doing exactly what we should do, which is what you would expect us to do game in and game out. And there were pieces of brilliance. There were some shaky moments on defense. They were able to get in behind a couple of times, and we'll talk about him, I'm sure, a little bit later. But I think Koscielny was probably the man of the match at the back. Had probably one of his best games this season. So overall, I think it was a good performance, not a great performance. I think we really wore West Ham down with sort of our possession and the way we really played keep away from them. And I think that allowed us some really good goals, and I think our technique on those goals was spot on each. But I think for a game as a whole, to me it wasn't vintage Arsenal, but at the same time it was a really good performance by the boys.
Perfectly summed up. Tim, your thoughts on today? Anything sort of different you want to add to that, or agree with Jace?
I've pretty much agreed with what Jason was saying. I thought it was a little bit strange that Theo was given the start. I know it might seem a bit controversial to some of you guys, but I, I still don't think he really brings enough to the team, really. There was one point, I think it was about maybe 20 minutes into the game. Theo was standing by himself. He should have been marking the West Ham fullback, and he was 30 yards away from him. So I'm just wondering what he was actually doing there, if that was just team orders or if he nodded off or what was going on. But it was a really good performance. I thought man of the match. I'm going to go slightly against you guys. I know you said Koscielny was very good. I thought Coquelin was utterly superb today. He stopped everything that came through the middle of the park. He was on them the entire game. Nothing got past him. Nolan didn't. I don't think Nolan got past him once that whole game.
Yeah, he
was brilliant.
Yeah,
he's fast becoming vital, isn't he? Another performance, obviously on Monday, which we covered in the pod. But he's just growing game by game by game, and it's almost like he must pick up the paper every day or read Twitter and go, everybody wants a DM. I'm going to show them fuckers.
Well, I think that the great thing about it, Kris, was the fact that he was also playing against, the guy who was sort of in front of him when he got here, Alex Song. And I think I think Song had a decent game for West Ham. At the same time, just to think that Alex Song ever went to Barcelona makes me feel like I could make it. I could make it on some level in the professional world if Alex Song could go to Barcelona.
It makes me want to take a shower, actually.
But I think Coquelin had.
Oh, Jace has died. Jace, you've died.
His connection's gone, yeah.
Yeah, Jace has died. Okay, well, Jace, are you back? Oh.
Zombie Jason.
We can see you, Jace. We can't hear you. Where have you gone? Right, while Jace is coming back, hopefully he'll be back shortly. Tim, let's elaborate. Let's sort of open up a little bit on this Theo Walcott debate then. Because I'm sort of halfway between stools on this one. I understand where you're coming from. I wasn't surprised to see him start today, but I was a little bit surprised that sort of so many people were clamouring for him to start. So open that debate up a little bit more then. What was you mentioned obviously his lack of defensive side. Do you think he's going to be vital to us? Do you think that this was just sort of the start because we were rotating? Do you think it's because the Ox was out? What's your sort of general viewpoint on how he played today and what potentially he could bring for the rest of the season or not, as the case may be?
I think, unfortunately, it's kind of it's really how Theo has played throughout his Arsenal career. If you look at him, he's never been one to go back and help out the defense and help out the midfield and work hard from a defensive standpoint. I think long term, unfortunately, I don't think Theo's future is at Arsenal. I think Wenger is probably going to cash in. There was an article on Arsblog earlier today or yesterday, I think, where it was saying where Wenger was saying that Walcott was starting to stall, and Wenger was kind of trying to make light of it. That Walcott was stalling on a new deal, and that's he's already on £105,000 a week. How much more does he think he's going to be able to bulk the club for? He's a squad rotation player now. We've got a number of guys who can play very well on the right wing. We've got Santi who can play there. Granted, not his preferred position, but he can do a job there. We've got two specialists in Serge Gnabry, who's still coming back from injury, if anyone even remembers him, since he's been out for so long. I think he's a really talented right winger, and he definitely works harder defensively than Theo. And we've got the Ox, as you mentioned, who's also really, to my mind, a specialist right winger, because he's one of the few guys who will come in and run at defenders. Okay, granted, Theo does that, but Theo tends to play off the shoulder of the fullback or the centre back, and sometimes, unfortunately, this catches him in an offside position. I seem to recall, I don't know if the guys in the chat box want to correct me here, but I think he got caught offside at least once this game when he moved forward too quickly, and that kind of blunts us. Whereas Ox and Gnabry, to me, have got slightly better timing with their runs, so it puts us a little bit less under pressure. We're not then having to scramble backwards to try and clear a goal kick.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I'm firmly in the camp that he was out or he's been left out for the period of time he's been left out because, as Dom has said on a number of occasions, this is an injury that even 10 years ago could end a career. So for him to just come straight back in and be the player he was before he got the injury was never really going to happen. And I wasn't surprised at all to see him sort of eased in. And I thought the manager's comments were quite interesting when he said during the week that he would, or I think it was yesterday actually in the press conference, where he said that he will play a part and he will be coming back into the squad sort of as the season progresses or as the run-in progresses. And you've seen with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, that sometimes you can rush a player back. Obviously, what happened with his hamstring wasn't his fault in any way, shape, or form, but he'd just come back from an injury himself. Same with Ramsey. So I don't really see a big issue with it. I think. I wonder if it's a little bit of a case of what we were saying previously, where it's a little bit people like a new toy. So people are like, should we just let him go so we can bring in someone else, or we haven't seen him for a while, so can he play? And I kind of think you're right to a certain degree. I think he's become squad rotation, and I think again the manager said that no player should be guaranteed a spot. And whilst Theo does give us a lot and will give us a lot, I don't think he's a guaranteed starter. I think that's probably fair, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. That chance also he spurned wide. I'm trying to remember when it was now. I think it was round about, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was around 55 minutes into the game, the one that he just shot open over the bar when he had an open net, and he just slipped and fell right before he hit it. That's just kind of sums up, unfortunately, Theo's progress over the last bit. Yeah, it's close but no cigar.
Yeah. It's almost like it's almost like he's trying too hard, almost, isn't it? Which I suppose is easily done when you've been at the side for so long. And also we'll touch on it towards the end, but we're a week away from, or less than a week away from, arguably the biggest game of the season. Certainly one of the biggest games of the season. So Dom is actually in our chat box. So good evening to Dom, or afternoon.
Good evening, Dom. Yeah.
And he's just put in there, and he said that Walcott scores goals. Ox and Gnabry aren't natural scorers. You sacrifice defensive output for goals. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. And at the end of the day, like I said the other day, you want to add rather than take away. So the more players you can add, the better.
That's true.
I'm trying to get Jace back, by the way, so we'll keep talking as we go. I think Jace is I think he's going to shut down and restart, so hopefully he'll be back with us shortly. Damn gremlins. We'll have a look at some of the moments then. Talk me through that first goal, Tim. That the sort of the move that led to it. The finish was a real beauty. The sort of goal that Giroud doesn't always get often, but he leathered it. Talk us through that goal.
It was a brilliant finish. There was some lovely passing outside the box that was going on. Ozil did quite well with that move, from what I can recall. It's been a long day. I think it was Ozil and Ramsey, I think, had a bit of involvement in that goal as well. But when the ball fell to Giroud, you knew he was going to just smash that thing. And we actually got really lucky with the finish, with it ricocheting in off the post. It could have very easily gone wide with the amount of power that he put on it. But he was able to keep it relatively straight. So once he'd hit it, it just went in off the post. The poor goalie, poor Adrian, you could just see his head was in his hands after that goal. He was doing the fetal position on the ground. He knew he should have at least tried to save that, and he was just completely in no man's land. So it was a good finish from Giroud. Well spotted for his positioning there. He was really excellent. What I couldn't understand during the first half, we kept putting in aerial balls, and I said this on Twitter. Any people who follow me on Twitter would have seen me say this earlier. Why did we keep putting in aerial balls? It's a Sam Allardyce team. The only thing they do is jump up and head balls in bloody training.
That is literally all they do, isn't it? Yeah.
It's typically what they do. And we kept seeing Chambers and Monreal, and to a lesser extent Ozil and Ramsey, keep putting in these high balls, and every time it was Kouyaté and Collins at the back who were just getting in and just hammering their headers away all the time, and it was proving us again. We were kind of taking a step back to where we were in August and September, where we were having tons of possession of the ball and we weren't getting enough penetration through that West Ham defence. I thought the fullbacks actually did an okay job. The West Ham guys. Cresswell was decent on the left hand side. Unfortunately, I don't think he was in a similar position to what Theo was. Really, he wasn't getting too much in the way of cover from his teammates. So kind of like what Theo does for us, he doesn't really cover that right hand side, as I said, defensively. What we also had from Chambers, he did very well in getting forward, but I thought defensively he was very, very rocky in the first half. He was seriously out of position. I think it was maybe about 20 minutes into the game. There was one where he was completely asleep. The West Ham attacking player, I think it might have been Jarvis, down the left-hand side, got about 10-15 yards on him and swung across in. He was actually so far out of position, Mertesacker was able to get back in line first.
Yeah.
Now that should tell you something. When Mertesacker was actually further away and got back first.
Yeah, says it all, doesn't it?
That's really worrying.
That's when you know you're slow.
Oh, yes.
that first Giroud goal, it sort of reminds me of what I pretty much do every single time I play FIFA, where it's just try and run down the outside, cut inside, and just hit it as hard as you can and hope for the best. But at the end of the day, if it goes in, it doesn't really matter, does it? I'm just trying to. The wonderful world of Google Plus is being a pain in the ass. So I'm trying to work on Jace. So forgive me if I'm sort of doing two things at once. So we've covered.
For a second, just have a look and see what we've got coming up in the YouTube chat box there. See if we've got any questions from.
Do you know you read
my lovely
mind? You read my mind. Yes. Well, I'll just give a few people some nods. Actually, I see Thomas is with us. Thomas Munt. Kelly's with us. Who I forgot? Daniel Cronin. We've got Steve Moneybags. We got Akshay Segal. We've got Goon TM. Hey, we got Mackenzie Laudius, Lazy Python. That's a great name. We have literally got all sorts of people in here. Ant Wander's in here as usual. Matthew AFC. Somebody else said hello to me earlier on.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Matthew earlier. Good know that.
And John Welsh as well, the bearded wonder himself.
Yes.
Somebody else did say hello to me, and I can't find them, so I will find them eventually, and I'll say hello back. But greetings to you all. Obviously, if you've got anything you want to add to the chat box, feel free to chuck it in, and we'll bring up some of the best comments. Connor Brennan's there as well. Hello, Connor. And Brendan Kane was the person that said hello. So hello, Brendan. So let's have a. Obviously it's kind of a 1-0. I don't know about you, Tim, but for me it was getting a bit. I don't know about scary, but it was getting a bit sort of tetchy and a bit kind of, well, not panicky, but I was just a little bit unsure how the game was going to progress. The second half we were a little bit slow, we were a little bit kind of ponderous, and almost sort of seemed like we were going to sit and just take the 1-0, which I'm never comfortable with at all. So with the sort of second half, the longer it went on, West Ham were coming back into it. Did you sort of have concerns at that point? Were you thinking, are we gonna ship a goal here?
I didn't really have too many concerns about us shipping a goal. I was more worried that we wouldn't be able to score another, because it took us a long time to actually figure out. And I think that the subs from Wenger actually really helped this game when he pulled off Özil and brought on Santi. That kind of changed things, because Santi, I don't think, put an aerial ball into the box once. He kept it nice and low, and as a consequence, I know we'll get onto that later, but that's how we got those 2 goals. And I've actually said in a tweet just before the end of the game, I said all of our goals were scored from low balls. We kept the ball down and slammed it into the net. Anything in the air against the Sam team is going to get just swatted away, really. I thought, but the biggest thing that changed the second half for me was poor old Chris Foy coming off. I really hope he recovers from his injury there, because he is one of the better refs around. I think we can get a general consensus on that. He is one of the better refs around. And when Anthony Taylor came on, I just thought, oh God, here we go. This guy has just been awful to us before, quite a few times. Normally when Aston Villa play us, unfortunately, at least this time it was West Ham. But you never know; he could get the colours confused. He's that kind of ref. He could do a bloody Mariner and send the wrong guy off. You never actually know with Taylor. But I thought he was okay. He got a couple of things wrong in the second half. There was a couple minutes after Cazorla came on. I remember I mentioned Cazorla coming on a few minutes ago, but where he was actually pushed in the back by Kevin Nolan, and he fell over one of the other West Ham players. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it might have been Joey O'Brien that he fell over. Who is himself a walking yellow card. Just about every time he's played for West Ham, I've seen him pick up a yellow. He's a dirty player. And Nolan pushed him right in the back, and bloody Taylor gave a free kick to West Ham.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he was watching.
As soon as he came on, I was just thinking, as soon as the ref was going off or coming back on, I was like, oh God, like I was kind of all panicky. I was just thinking, oh, what's going to happen now? Because you just had that feeling that somebody was going to. When Foy went off, and I remember, was it Villa? I think we had Anthony Taylor, and everyone was panicking. And I thought, oh God, you just know that there's going to be some kind of penalty incident or something that's going to go against us. And I know the Arsenal commentary team both said that the ref is being subbed, and I think Dan Robert, the commentator, said unless it's Allardyce looking to do it for tactical reasons, which made me chuckle. I just thought we really don't need this. We've got Jason back with us. Hi,
Cheers,
Jace.
everyone. Hello.
Jace, otherwise
Hello.
known as Chris Carpenter. I don't know who he is. Sunderland.
This is just what Chris Carpenter would look like if he cut his hair.
And if he was far more good looking, Jace, obviously.
Oh, I doubt that.
No, I've had to. This is the wonders of technology. I couldn't get Jace back onto the call, so I gave him my email address. So he's now got all my bank details and everything. So he's going to be £10.24 richer tonight.
That gets me to negative £3.
Woohoo! Get in. Welcome back, Jace. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. No, I apologize for that. I think it was my as Chris would call it the Apple curse, because my wife called and it came through my iPad, which I was doing it on, and my phone. So I think that was the.
If in doubt, blame the wife.
That's
Jason, that strongly doesn't look like apple juice.
It is not. This would be alcohol juice.
As long as it's not Danny's special juice that looks that colour. No one needs that.
No, a little Kentucky bourbon for everyone.
Happy days. Jay, seeing as you're back with us, myself and Tim we had a little chat about Theo, which I'll sort of let you have your say on in a second. But we covered the first goal. We both agreed that it was a lovely little move. It was a clout and a lovely goal.
Yeah.
We're just kind of just gone through the period where we looked a little bit shaky, or it's just that little worrying period of time. Now I was just covering the period of time when we obviously the referee substitute. Then we got the second goal.
Yeah.
Talk me through. Was it more relief, or was it sort of, well, that was obviously going to come? How did you kind of feel about that?
I actually didn't think we'd score. I thought we would finish the game out 1-0 and sort of be defensive. So it was great to see the second goal happen, and the Ox sort of comments. A lot of people in the box are sell them. A lot of people in the box are, we can't just sell everybody. The second, Yankee Gunner last night really stated it quite well. If you saw what he was talking about on Twitter, and the guy's been out for like 12 and a half, 13 months. He's come back in, and he's been in the side for about 60 days now, if that. And all of a sudden, he's not good enough anymore. He's been out for 13 months. Let's give the guy a little longer than 60 days to get to top form after having complete, knee reconstruction surgery on his injury. Let's give the guy a little bit of time. Yeah, there are parts of his game that are wanting before that. Before he got injured, his injury though, he was on a decent run of form last holiday period, running into June into that FA Cup match against Tottenham. So I think we're being being too quick to dismiss players. We did the same thing with Sonia when he came back after 2 leg breaks. and had a little bit of down form for about a half a year before he really started to get back into the swing of things. The issue is it wasn't a contract year for him like this next 6 months to 12 months is. Really will decide the fate of his Arsenal career. But let's give the guy to get some game time under his belt, not just substitutes, but let's get him a few different starts. Let's get him more than 3 hours of game time. Let's get him 10 hours of game time over the next FA Cup, Premier League, and Champions League, and really assess where he is then and in the summer. And then I think we can make an educated guess on whether, yes, he is surplus to the goods, and we can be able to get a good enough fee for him at the time, because I think that's the other issue. Is we can't just sell him for beans. He's a good player, and anywhere he goes, I think he's going to have success. I want him to stay here because I do think we need to have depth to the squad, but I think we need to give him a little bit more time to get into form, because we're getting down on him for a guy who 4 months ago wasn't even training.
Mm. And there's a big goal in him, isn't there? I get that feeling. Yeah. I don't know why. I just get that feeling there is a goal in him. Tim, that second goal that we got, which sort of made the game quote unquote safe. I think I tweeted at the time, game set match, because you never really felt West Ham would get a goal, and you certainly never thought they'd get two. I thought personally, although it was a very tidy finish, and it was nice to see maybe just a flash of the old Aaron Ramsey. I'm not criticising Aaron Ramsey because he's playing in a very different role this season, clearly. But we got to see the other side, and there was a debate in our WhatsApp group the other night with regards to Olivier Giroud, and I know that some of the ABW camp are in the kind of the box that ticks he's decent, and then other people like myself and Dom are in the sort of category of he's probably the best in that value range that we could get, and he's certainly one of the best. I think you said as well, Jace, I think I'm with you, that I think he's one of the best in the world at doing the role he does. That doesn't mean he's the best in the world as far as a striker goes, but for doing the role for the club that we have, I think he's one of the best. And that, if you watch that second goal again, just the level of sort of what's the sort of softness of the touch almost, to put that into Ramsey's path, that shows a side of Giroud that I really like, and it shows that he's not only going to get us goals, but he does set an awful lot of them up. Tim, do you think that that's something that is underappreciated when he plays for us?
Very much so. OG is definitely one of, like you said, one of the best in the world, I think, at his position and what he does for the club. He brings in all the other players around him. He brings in Ozil. He brings in Santi. He allows Santi a lot of space. When you get the high ball coming in for Giroud, every time it happens, you see him chasing it down, and you see Santi making a burst running forward for the return ball. I think that's where Ramsey, I think, has missed a little bit this season. He hasn't always been there for the return ball, as you said, due to the positional change, and that's why he hasn't really had too many strong opportunities on goal. He's had to more kind of scrounge out from half chances outside the box, and that's if you look at the goals he scored in 13-14 when he was on his purple patch, you'll see a couple of them were outside the box, but the majority of them were just inside the box, and most of them were fairly low shots. They weren't they weren't ones that lifted at all. I think Ramsey ballooned, 2 chances before he got that goal in the game. I think he hit 2 off target before that. And when we were able to finally learn on keeping the ball low again, contribution to Santi Cazorla, because when he came on, the ball started keeping down on the deck. As soon as we started keeping the ball low, that brought Ramsey more into the game from an attacking standpoint, and really that kind of range, and that sort of ball that comes in, that's really bread and butter for Ramsey. That's exactly the kind of goal that he was scoring last season, and I think he netted a couple like that in 12-13 as well. The close range, low finish, gives the keeper no chance. He doesn't even think about where he's actually putting it. He just sticks his boot out and slams it straight into the net. Just to mention Theo again, that's the kind of goal Theo needs to score. He needs to not have time to think about it. He needs to just, as soon as the ball comes in, he's got to just hit it first time. Just crack it into the net. That's what he's really good at. Like that goal he got against Brighton in the cup.
Yeah, it's just no thought about it. It's just hit it. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
That's
Jace, your thoughts on Giroud and anything you want to add to that, really? So I know the debate raged, and although I will actually, I'll mention Dom's brilliant
Yeah.
goal at the end, but yeah, talk us through what your views on Giroud are.
Yeah, and Kris, you've known this for a very long time. I have been a huge proponent of Olivier Giroud. I'm one of the ones who thinks we can win the league with Olivier Giroud as our #1 striker because of, again, if he's not scoring goals, at least he's providing them to other players. And he's doing it, as you saw today, all over the park now, beyond the midfield line, on that little backheel flick or sort of backwards flick to Ozil on that one break, and he's got such a well-rounded game that I think it's hard for us to view him as a true striker, and people want to see us have a true striker. But when he's not scoring goals, I would like to see, and I don't have time to research this, but I would just like to see how many second assists he has out there for us over the last year, because I think his link up of play is invaluable, and I said it inside the WhatsApp group, and Akshay Segal actually said it in here that OG is the best hold up sort of target man in the world, and he is. Nobody is better at playing that style than Olivier Giroud. And it's not a style that's going to suit everybody, so a lot of people aren't going to understand how he can be considered the best in the world because he doesn't score goals. But, there's a lot of other things that you can do to help a team other than just score goals, and a lot of that is facilitating other players, which is what he does. So I've always been in love with him, and as Kelly said, his touch in the box is underrated.
Yeah, in more ways than one. Ask hotel staff. We won't go there, allegedly. Sorry, just have to chuck that one in, don't you? Hey, he's a handsome bastard. If you can get away with it, he probably would. Not that ABW condones adultery at all. I should stress that. Right, let's move on from one handsome Frenchman to another Frenchman. Don't think we can call Matthew handsome at all. Bless him. I was following, as I say, I have this real adversity to streams. I just hate them. So I try and follow along with highlights and Twitter timelines and the radio commentary. And I was listening to the Arsenal the Arsenal.com feed. And I was looking at, obviously it's about 2 seconds behind, and I suddenly saw Flamini's number pop up from the Arsenal Twitter feed, and I thought, no, surely not. But apparently so. Jace, the man with the quietest feet in football, as Danny says, little Santi Cazorla, danced in from the left-hand side. Across it went, and there was Matt Flam bundling it in. I think you were probably surprised as I was to see him pop up with a goal, weren't you?
Yeah, I was surprised to see him pop up on the pitch, to be honest with you. But glad he was able to get on and run around and point and shout and cut his sleeves off and get a goal. And I think it's great. I think he's one of those players now who is just, for me it's hard to take him seriously because he's become somewhat of a caricature of himself, I think, but he's still got something, I think, to offer for us at certain times, and we saw it today, and it was a good run in there at the back post for somebody to be there, and I think it was a great little ball by Santi, because everything Santi does is little. He doesn't do anything big. No. But I really think, yeah, exactly. I do think that Santi's for it was good to get him a rest today, but good to see him get on the assist sheet as well, and it's just seeing a Flamini goal is one of those. It's like seeing like an albino unicorn. It's just so rare that you just really need to enjoy it while it lasts.
You've never been to Plymouth, have you, Jace? We've got thousands of them down here. You did say tramps, no? Okay.
No.
Says the man sat here looking like I do. Yeah, pot kettle black. Tim, obviously, Flamini's future is very much up in the air. We saw Mikel Arteta and his lovely Lego hair return to first team training this week, so he will be another option. I actually think that Arteta will probably end up partnering Coquelin in the last few weeks of the season. I've just got a feeling. I know Arsene rates him very highly. Flamini's contract is running down. Do you think it will be a casual shake of the hand and a part ways? Do you think he might get a 6-month rolling deal? And if you had the choice, would you keep him around? I'm personally of the opinion that, I don't think he's a starter anymore, but he's good for numbers. What do you think?
I think it really depends again on who is available in the off season, and I think also Theo's future also determines it. If we say get a very good offer for Theo and we're able to move him on, okay, then I think we'll be able to bring in another defensive midfielder, because Theo is one of the biggest wage earners at the club, and surely we can get a decent DM for 100 grand a week. Surely.
You'd like to think so.
You'd like to think so. Yes, that's decent money. I think if Theo does end up staying, if we don't end up selling him, then I think Flamini may also be more likely to stay. But the one who I think, unfortunately, is going to go this summer, and I know there's going to be quite a few Arsenal fans who will absolutely rejoice at this, while others of us who would have seen him actually play would be a little bit upset, and that's Abu Diaby. Yeah. I think he's pretty much done now. I really don't think he's going to get a new deal. I haven't seen any word coming out about a new deal for Diaby. Please don't let there be one, because seriously, I don't think he can ever really get back to effective match fitness to actually help the club going forward. That's more the issue. It's if the guy can play, then great. But unfortunately, as it stands, I think the last time we saw him was against Norwich last season, which is now at least 10 months ago. I think we played them end of May. It was our last game of the season last season. Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it was in May last year we played them. That was the last time we saw him come on. I think he came on. Yeah, I think he came on for about 20-25 minutes, and even then, 5 minutes to go, he was starting to labour a bit. I think unfortunately his ankle's just knackered really.
I think you're right. It's a real shame. It really is. But you're right. I think there's room for reinforcement there. We don't want to mention the S word at Southampton, because Dom's bedroom will be a mess. So let's not even go there. But
Runs.
Yeah. Oh, we can mention him. But then my room will be a mess. So let's not do that either. The man himself, actually, Dom's just put in the chat box, Podolski will leave, and there's room for manoeuvre with the wages there, and I think that's a fair point. Joel Campbell's potentially another one, although he signed a new contract, that could be another one that could move on. But I don't want to get too bogged down in transfers, because we'll be here till midnight. But let's sort of draw a metaphorical line under today. I'll stick with you, Tim, and then I'll come to you, Jace, because I know there's something you want to bring up. Tim, I know you wanted to make a point that will lead nicely into what Jace has got to say. We sit here now with Man City 13 minutes into an away trip at Burnley, which I think they'll win, but let's just say they don't. Second place, it's a possibility, isn't it? And I know you had something you wanted to throw into the mix about that.
Yeah, I think it's essential that the team absolutely push on for second place. I'm going to say something a little bit controversial. I would actually like to see us field a slightly weakened side against Reading or Bradford to ensure that our guys are absolutely rested so we can push on for that second place. Because with the start of next season, UEFA, I don't know how many of the guys are aware of this, guys and girls, obviously, sorry.
Nicely
are aware
said.
of this, but UEFA's changing its changing how they work the seeding for the Champions League, for the Champions League draw next season. If we can get second place, it will ensure that we can avoid at least one of the really, really awful clubs in the group stage, i.e. we won't get Dortmund, although no one's going to get Dortmund next year from where they are in the German league. But it would be nice for us to maybe avoid Wolfsburg, who've been on a bit of a tear this year as well. But if we can get second place, that will help us to avoid at least one big European club, be them from Ligue 1 or Serie A or from Spain. So that could potentially mean we could miss out on Barcelona, I think that's got to be a plus for any of us as Arsenal fans. I mean, we've seen those daffy bastards enough over the last couple of years. Don't want to see them again.
Yeah.
same with Dortmund. Don't want to see them again.
No.
You know.
I think you've got to.
Could also do with our Bayern Munich as well.
Yes.
You know, obviously.
I think when you look as well, I think you make an excellent point, and I think second place has got to be, excuse me, it's got to be a priority. Or while we can fight for it, I think we have to push on and try and finish as high up. We missed the qualification game, like you say, if we finish second, and also if you look at the coefficients and also look at the leagues, if you look at the top 4 leagues in Europe, the Bundesliga, Liga, Serie A, and the Premier League, there seem to be the teams that are finishing below the championship winning sides are getting better. So whereas previously in Spain you'd have Real Madrid and Barcelona, you've now got Atletico Madrid. In Germany you had Dortmund and Bayern Munich. This year you might not even have Dortmund, but like as you mentioned, Wolfsburg and John Welsh's very own Borussia Mönchengladbach, who are very impressive on their day.
Yes.
Equally, you wouldn't even fancy playing a Werder Bremen or a Schalke in a playoff game, and the same with Italy. Whilst AC Milan and Inter Milan fight for the right to be terrible every week, there are teams like Fiorentina who beat some shit team. I don't know who they were. Fiorentina, Juventus, Napoli, Roma. The list goes on, so that there are better sides now coming second and third in their leagues, which means that the playoff games are not going to be a gimme anymore. So I think you make an excellent point. And on that very point, Jace, I know you want to make a point. I was going to sort of say that we are now entering what I like to call Arsenal period, where we sort of kick into overdrive. When I say overdrive, I don't mean push for the title, obviously, but we kick into fourth place drive. This year we may be pushing into third or second place drive, but you wanted to make a point on how the sort of season starts and how it finishes and sort of tie that into the future.
Yeah, it's just every year, March, April, we're coming off a bad loss, a bad run of form, 3 or 4 bad games, typically around a Champions League round of 16. Excuse me. And it's the same thing for the last probably like 5 years now almost. There's become this repetition to a season. And it seems like no matter what we do, it's always been the same, no matter what the players do, no matter who the players are, no matter what our injury situation looks like, because I actually think compared to years past, right now is one of the best times injury-wise that we've really had. We've got some depth on the bench that we could bring on. We were able to bring in guys today like Danny Welbeck, like Sandy Cazorla off of the bench and make an impact in games. So, it just seems like this competitive wheel that's just spinning in place for, a great year we could get second like this year, which I actually think we've got a really good shot at. And an update on that is about 19 minutes in, it's 0-0 Burnley and City. So, but it takes me back to this overarching theme of the club has just, it's in this rut. It's in the same thing, and it's a rut that any other team in the league, barring Chelsea, City, and United, would love to be in, where you get Champions League every year, where we've got another semifinal at Wembley off of winning a cup last year. But it's just it's deja vu all over again. That sort of, and a lot of people know that I'm not Wenger and I'm not Arsene knows best. I praise the manager when it's due. I think that it's time for him to possibly, step down or move on to a different role. Because of this same situation, it's just become very stale there, and it doesn't seem like he's got the way for us to be able to start a season good enough and be able to finish it good enough and put together a whole season where we're consistent from August until May without, the big thing in sports when you're coaching a team is you never want to have really high highs and you never want to have really low lows. You want to stay somewhere in that middle, so where when you get up, you're doing really well and you're keeping that arc going up, but when you come down, you don't come down as far as when you start, that you can go back up. That's what the mark of a true consistent club and a true consistent leader is, and I just don't feel that that's what we've got right now. I think that's what a lot of the frustration with Wenger is really in that direction, and that's one of the things that that I get upset with is that it's the same thing every year, and when are we going to get off of this merry-go-round right now of coming back into form after a bad loss in the Champions League, and then see out the rest of our season on a great run of form. I think last year was the closest thing we had to getting off of it when we started off really good, top of the league for most of the season, but then you had all those injuries, you had the Champions League loss, and then the same thing started to happen again. So I think the repetition is sort of there, and I actually agree with trademarked Goon in the chat box that I don't see Wenger going anywhere until so it's really a moot point to be able he's leaving or staying, because he's the type of guy who he's loyal enough, he's going to finish off his contract. But it's just that's one of the reasons why I personally made my decision to sort of hop off the Wenger bandwagon. But at the same time, he's done some really good things this year that I like, and I want to see us not get to the same point where we're back on this radio show next season, and Kris is talking to me about, do we have a chance in the Champions League because we blew the first leg again, and we're looking at third in the league. Do you think maybe we can challenge for second? And it maybe as a podcaster and somebody who continues to talk about this sort of on a yearly cycle, I'm tired of having the same conversation with everybody every single year in January, February, March, April, and May. And I think a lot of the fans are just tired of seeing that now as well. I think that's part of the frustration right now with the team, because I still don't feel like the support is where it needs to be from either side. The Wenger in or the Wenger out, especially when the team is in the stadium today. There were times when it just sort of felt dead. And we were playing a really good game. It wasn't vintage Arsenal, but it was a good game, and it was something that a lot of the fans should have got up for. And Jeff Hollandfreund, the runner of the wonderful Bergie blogs, has been posting photos from the Emirates today. I don't know if he took them or not. I don't think he has, but it was a guy wearing a GoPro on his head. Like, really? There was a couple sleeping.
Yeah.
It's just we've got to make sure that when the true fans like us who aren't there, when we do get a chance that we're there making noise, and the fans who do get to go there, like our good friend Andrew Fife, #ParkFife, is there. We're like him. We're up, we're yelling, we're chanting the whole time and creating an atmosphere. Because I think that's part of it, and I think our atmosphere ebbs and flows with who we're playing. And the issue is we're supporting the Arsenal, and we're not supporting them more because they're playing Chelsea or less because they're playing Burnley. We're supporting Arsenal because we love Arsenal.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. Tim, you wanted to jump in on that as well before we move on to our other subject. Go on.
Yeah, just on that, again, with the finishing second, and this is a problem that's been endemic to Arsenal for the last couple of seasons, because as Jason said, it's the same thing that happens every year. We end up getting fourth place. If we can get second place, that's going to mean that we avoid that Champions League qualifier, and we've got more of a chance of being able to attract a really top draw signing in the close season, because we've already confirmed ourselves in the Champions League. This has been a problem that we've had for a couple of years. Look at the number of great signings that we've had before we've been confirmed in the Champions League. I'm not talking the third round qualifier. I mean in the actual group stage. How many of those players have signed after we've completed the qualifier? I'd say probably 85 to 90%. There's a rare exception like Sanchez that we get tied up before, where I think Wenger was just in the right place at the right time there to attract Alexis to the club, which was fantastic, and we got that one tied up before the third round qualifier. But how many times in the past has this happened? Recently, where we've gotten fourth place and we've had to wait to actually qualify for the Champions League before we can attract a player, and then the guys only got maybe 3 weeks to bet into the club before the first Champions League game, which kind of puts more pressure on the manager and the team to start performing straight away. And that's when we see the occasionally naff league results that come in September and October, because we're still trying to bet in that new player. If we can get that guy in the summer, get him into the preseason training, get him in with the other guys, get him better integrated into the squad and into North London, then we can probably see some stronger early season results, pick up some good points there, much like we did at the start of last season, because we didn't really make any big signings last season. If you recall, we didn't do too many big players came in last season. I can't think of too many there who came in 13-14. Someone want to refresh my memory here for a second?
Prior to the start of this season, Prior
to the start of this season, in summer 13, I don't think we had too many come in. We had a lot go out. We didn't have too much come in.
Feels like
only
forever
Fleming,
ago, doesn't
really.
it? Yeah, it feels like
Flamini,
I
and
think it was Flamini, wasn't it? That was it.
he came in. And when did he come in? Before the Champions League
Late.
game.
Mm,
The,
yeah.
yes, he still came in before the qualifier. I'm
Mm,
pretty sure he played in that qualifying match. Correct me if I'm wrong, people on YouTube. Correct me if
mm,
I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure he came in before the third qualifying match. I think he played that match.
mm,
Actually, we had him registered in time because he was training with the club from, I think it was June. He was training with the club, and
yeah.
we had him then tied up before the qualifying match. Again, he was a free transfer though. We didn't really buy him. He just kind of arrived, started training, and then made him put his John Hancock on the contract. So,
Nice. Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's it. We had him tied up before the game, and that's been our big problem. That's why we've started at the beginning of so many seasons. Lack
Mm,
of big signing in the close season due to the Champions League game,
yeah.
and players want to be in the Champions League.
Yeah, I agree. I think you make an excellent point there. I think very well said. I think getting players in earlier, like you say, I don't want to give Chelsea any credit at all, but it's something that they have done
Monks,
done very
they're
well
all
this
monks.
season, and yeah, they are. they're all rent boys. But yeah, I mean they get their players in early, and I think there's got to be a lot to be said. I think the one thing you could say is that this summer just gone was the first season that everyone kind of acknowledged that we had the money to do an Alexis deal, but we also had a World Cup to deal with. So this
Yeah.
summer for me is the first one where you can honestly say there will be no distractions. There's no new deals to be done. There's no new kit sponsorship. There's no World Cup. There's no tournaments. So I think the manager pretty much has got all that summer to address what he wants to address, if indeed he wants to address it, because we don't know, do we? So I think that's an excellent point. We're going to come to the listeners' bits and bobs in a minute, so please keep going, guys and girls. All your comments. I'm not ignoring you. I'm reading as we go. I've taken a question that someone asked me in a minute, which I'll get to in a second. But before we come on to the listeners' questions. I want to do a little bit of a sort of five minutes or so about what we've got coming up on Tuesday. Obviously, the guys did a brief preview on the podcast, so I want to sort of just add to that really. To give you a little bit of an update, Monaco watch. It's getting scary. They haven't scored 3 goals in a game since October, and then they do it 3 times in a row. It's a bit worrying. They beat Bastia 3-0 on Friday night. 2 goals from Martial and 1 from Carvalho, of all people. Yes, he's still alive, people. But more importantly than that, they were able to, Yannick Ferreira Carrasco, Jeremy Toulalon, and Jeffrey Kondogbia were all injured. So they were all rested. I think it's fair to say. They were also able to leave out Valerie Germain, Dilau, Berbatov came from the bench. Echegile was rested on the bench, as was Traore. So it's fair to say they've rested a few, as we have done as well today. So I think it really is going to be a shootout. Now, all of the stats suggest that we can't do it. I think if you talk to, I think a few people have said it well when you say it's the hope that kills, because it is. It is the hope that kills you, because just when you think, I wouldn't put it past Arsenal to do it, I guess is what I would say. Me personally, I don't think we will do it. I think we'll come close. Maybe a heroic 2-0. We might even get the 3 we need and then end up shipping one late and lose it in extra time just to make it even more painful. But I want to get your guys' thoughts. Jace, I'll come to you first of all. I'm going to ask you both the same 2 questions, and then if you just want to elaborate a little bit. The 2 questions I'm going to ask you is, can we do it? And how do we do it? Jace, what do you reckon?
I think we can do it. And how is, I think we've got to probably play our best performance of the season, because we know Monaco's pitch is pretty much the equivalent of a gravel parking lot. They're going to sit back and defend and try to get us on the counter again. So we've got to be disciplined positionally, even when we have the ball. We've got to make sure that we keep our shape, especially the back 4 to 5 guys. And then going forward, we've got to be clinical. We can't allow the opportunities that even today that we missed on some. We can't hit those straight at the keeper against Monaco. We've got to find the low and hard and drive it to a post. So I think there's a possibility that we do it, and I think that the best way to do it is everybody's got to be 100% focused, have their best week of training, make sure that they know what their job is, and make sure that the instructions that they're given are what's needed for this type of occasion.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much covers every angle there of what I was thinking. So same two questions to you, Tim, and also I'd like to get your, rather than asking you exactly the same, give me an idea of what lineup you play. But firstly, the two questions. So can we and how do we?
Can we? Yes. I think the first 15 to 20 minutes of the match are going to be very, very important for Arsenal. If we start Theo again, he has to score in that period for us to really have a chance. We've got to get one or two on the board very, very early on in that match. I think we've got to set up in a manner similar to how we set up away to Manchester City and away to Man United recently in the Cup, where defense first. We cannot concede a goal in this game, particularly not in the first half. If we manage to concede one after he scored 4, that's fine. But we must set up in a manner that does not allow us to concede a goal. Because of that, I'd say the first name on that team sheet for Tuesday has got to be Francis Coquelin. He's got to be in there as our linchpin defensive mid. I think he is our single best player in that position, regardless of whether Arteta or Flamini or whoever else is injured. He is the number one player in that position for the team. He must start. As for his other midfield partners, I think probably next to him we will probably see Ramsey and Santi playing in there. Ramsey because he's shown a reasonable performance this week against West Ham. He has picked it up a little bit this past week. He is coming back from injury, but I think he's maybe just got that little bit of guile, maybe that little bit better passing than Flamini, who I think really would be the only other option there in central midfield. And let's face it, not too many people are going to pick Flamini over Ramsey for that spot. I think Santi is absolutely essential to start there as well. Again, with the early goal, Santi is probably going to be involved in that build-up because of his ability to move the ball very quickly out of our box, which we're going to need to do quite often. I think Monaco are going to probably try to push us quite hard. We're probably going to have to soak up a fair bit of pressure from them. We've got to be able to hit them quickly on the counter, and Santi is essential to that because he moves the ball very quickly out of the box. Either he keeps it low or he hits it up towards Giroud or Ozil to move the ball around. Either way, we need that what they call the quick transition.
Yeah.
Also, other names on the team sheet, I think the defense pretty much picks itself at the moment.
Yeah.
I'd go with the backline. I'd make one change from today in terms of the backline. I'd definitely keep Ospina in goal. My change in the backline would be Bellerin for Chambers.
Yeah.
Because no doubt, if you said they're resting that Belgian chap, Carrasco.
Yeah.
Carrasco, that's the guy's name. Yeah, he's very, very quick, and he. From what I saw last time, they tended to play him slightly towards the left side, and that's kind of where Bellerin is going to be on Arsenal's right. He's going to be their left. So we're going to need someone who's going to be very quick to shut them down. And Bellerin did do fairly well in the last match. If Wenger picks Chambers there, we're going to get absolutely mullered for pace, and that's going to be a real problem for us. Yeah. I think Chambers is pretty safe to say is going to be on the bench. But my backline would be Monreal, Koscielny, Big Per, and Hector on the Hector at right back. Yeah. As for your front attacking 4, really, because it is really a 4, you got your attacking mid, your 2 wide players, and your striker up top. I think for your attacking 4, I think you're going to see Sanchez out on the left side. Ozil in the middle, that guy Wobbs on the right, and that guy Wobbs or Walcott. I actually got a sneaky feeling here it might be Theo to start. Sneaky feeling here. Like I said, if it's Theo, we've got to get a quick goal out of him if he starts. If not, then I'd expect either Theo or Welbeck to start on the right side. I would say maybe yeah. I'm gonna actually backtrack here. Monaco are very stout defensively. Outstart Welbeck, bring on Theo for a late one. I'll backtrack there. Change my mind. Mid-sentence. Up front, I would undoubtedly got to be Giroud.
Yeah.
Up front. Got to start Giroud up front against them. Not only with his prior knowledge of Ligue 1, because he did play a few seasons there, and obviously he is French, so he probably knows of quite a few of those players. He's familiar with their style of play. I would say he's got to start. He's got to bring in Sanchez and Welbeck around him, and yeah, that's what I'd go for. Try to get the quick goal. Hopefully Sanchez will be effervescent. He hasn't shown too much of his effervescence recently. The last couple of games, I think he is a little bit tired. But I really hope Arsene can do something in the pre-match talk and between now and the match on Tuesday in training, that maybe he gets rested a little bit more in training so he can keep his energy levels up for that match, so he can get him really up for it.
Yeah, I think as thorough as you can get to him, brilliant, and I completely agree with you. I think pretty much the lineup. The only question is Welbeck or Theo. I think it will be Welbeck. I think he trusts him more defensively. I think he trusts him away from home more. And I think Theo is an ideal guy to bring on if you're chasing that third goal. For the yeah, exactly. Yeah, that special time. For the record, I mean, my kind of 10 pence worth. I don't know where this comes from, but I think we'll actually take the tie to extra time. I'm not prepared to put my head on the block and say we'll go through because I don't want to jinx it, but I've got a feeling we'll take this to extra time. Because I do think Monaco will pick us off on the counter-attack, and I do think they will score. But in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't really change a lot if we get the 3 goals we need. And I think we have to... The one thing that you'll look at with Monaco is that their game plan is not going to change. If they'd have come to the Emirates and drawn 0-0 last week, their game plan would still be exactly the same as what it's going to be on Tuesday. They will still sit deep, they will still get men behind the ball, and they'll still look to counter at the opportunities they get. Then they're not going to come out and try and finish the game. If this was a Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, I think they'd come out the blocks early, put one past us and go, right, that's the game finished. Monaco will not do that. They will invite us on. And the one thing that Arsenal are good at is when a team invites them on, we are good at getting in between the lines and getting the chances. So an early goal, I think, is not vital, but it would help. And I think somebody said it, I think it was on the Guardian podcast on Tuesday. I think someone made the point, I forget who it was, but it might have been Philippe Auclair, but he was saying that if we get the goal up and we've still got 20 minutes to play and we're only 1-0 up, don't panic, because you get that second goal, even if you've only got 20 minutes to go, Monaco will shit themselves, because they will know just how close the game could be if we get that second goal and we've got time to get the third. I think that would be the worry. So can we do it? Yes. Will we do it? Again, I'm not prepared to stick my neck on the block and say yes, but I have a feeling that we might take it to extra time. So here's hoping, shall we say.
And if we can get a goal off of Ricardo Carvalho's face, that would be an absolute bonus.
Do you know what, Tim? I wouldn't care if we re-signed Alberto Mendes and Amaury Bischoff on Tuesday morning, and both of them scored, their asses. I wouldn't care if Arsene Wenger flicked one in with his arse. It wouldn't bother me at all. But it should be an interesting tie. I think you want to go into games with an interesting, or with an opportunity to really impress, and what a statement it would be. You go out there and you basically rewrite history in the Champions League. What a statement that would make, and I think it would make all of Europe would sit up. Probably not since we beat Inter Milan 5-1 has anyone really looked at us in Europe and gone, wow. Maybe the Real Madrid game in the Bernabeu, but. If we could go out there and turn in this performance, it could be. And what we've had a perfect week. We couldn't have asked for any more. So, who knows? Who knows? Let's go to some listeners' questions. So, guys, if you want to start getting some stuff in, I know I've had a couple of bits and bobs through. Jay says, see if we can find something for you. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a question that somebody asked me, but I'm going to ask you instead, from Akshay Sengal, and he asked me a little while ago, of all the star players Arsenal have, surely the most important one of them is Koscielny. What do you think to that question?
So I actually when I think of star players for Arsenal, I don't necessarily think of Koscielny, but I do think he should be a star player because he to me, as much as we talk about Mertesacker and his leadership and everything, Koscielny is sort of the glue that holds that defense together. Because if we didn't have Koscielny, I think Mertesacker would look way worse than he probably is in there. And so I think Koscielny is really the key to our defense, and I think he should be a star. If you were to talk about true stars, though, I think the one that we can't do without, I'm probably going to have to say Mesut Ozil. Just the way he holds the ball. There's a lot. I'm not going to repeat everything I've said about him, but it's all those little things that aren't quantified by stats that he does that help you win football games and that put players in the right positions. So I would actually say Mesut Ozil.
That's an interesting. I tend to think Koscielny is right up there with some of the most important we've got. So
I think he's up there with the most important we've got. Do I think that he is outside of Arsenal fans? Do I equate him with a star? No.
Yeah.
No. He's a star in my book. Obviously.
Yeah, fair enough. That's what the world's about, making opinions and standing by them. So fair play to you. John Welsh asked if we should we sell the Alexis sex tape in the armory. Yeah, I think we should, John. Obviously, you'd be first in the queue to buy it. So yeah. Right, we had another question here. It was another one that I picked out from Jake Riley. And again, I'll answer it just while we wait for other questions. I'll get your opinion as well, Tim. Jake asked me if my dream comes true and we were to sign Lacazette, who I have a bit of a man crush on. Does a first-team player have to leave? What I'll do is I'll slightly change that question, if I may, Jake, and I'll ask Tim. If we are to bring in a marquee signing, everyone talks about it being the DM, so let's just say hypothetically it is a DM, whether that be Schneiderlin or whoever. Do you think that means one of the big players has to leave? And when I say big players, obviously let's exclude Diaby, let's even exclude Podolski, because I think he's going to go. Do you think somebody has to go to make room for that player coming in, even a Jack Wilshere, for example?
I don't think Wilshere would go because obviously they would play very different positions. I think if we're looking for a marquee signing, I think it will be in that defensive midfield spot because we have so many attacking players in this team. If we were to buy Lacazette, who would we drop? I mean, this is the thing. Who would we drop? It depends entirely on who we sell and who we end up keeping. And I'm going to rotate a little bit back to Theo Walcott again. If he doesn't agree a new contract in the summer, I think he will be off. And if Walcott goes, then we would have the space to bring in, like I said, we will be able to give him games. Because, like Theo, he's a forward. We've got a number of forward players who would still be staying at the club. Even if we get rid of Podolski and Campbell, you would still have a forward line of Alexis, Welbeck, Giroud, arguably Gnabry as well, because he plays that right wing position. Santi and Ozil feature on the wings as well. That's already 6 guys. So and that's even after getting rid of Podolski and Campbell, who haven't had too much game time for us this season. So if we were to bring in Lacazette, I think he would get games, but it would be a question of who are you willing to drop or loan out. If we get Lacazette, I could probably see Gnabry going off on loan to another Premier League side. I don't think he would get too much game time. And obviously also Walcott would have to leave for Lacazette to come in.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly well put, and I agree. I think, like you say, I think it would have to be a high earner and somebody on the thresholds of the first team, which would be Theo. So I agree with you. Jace, I know you need to shoot in a minute, so we'll start to bring things to a close. Have you got time for me to ask you one more question?
I do.
Cool, because I want to ask you this one that just popped through, which was from Liam. So good they named him twice. Who out of the current crop is captain material? He would give it to Coquelin in a heartbeat. Not sure I would go there, but do you think we need a change of captain given what we've had this season?
That's a touchy question. We probably see, and we equate captains with leadership on the field only.
That's a great point.
That's where we see a lot of people actually like, oh, Flamini, look at how he directs everybody. let's not take giving instruction for leadership, because they're two very different things. I can not communicate a lot, but still lead people, and I can lead people by also communicating a lot. There are those types of leaders. I think what needs to happen is, and I think Wenger is very smart. I think probably Mertesacker is the best choice that we have right now. Just the way he leads the locker room and everything. But I think we need to look at somebody long term who is respected in the locker room, who wields authority, who does things right. I used to want to say Jack would be a great captain, but he can't control his off the field antics. And as a leader, I've sort of in leadership classes before, you've got the leadership pyramid.
Yeah.
When you're when you're the leader and you're at the top of the pyramid, you have less room to do what you would like to do because you've got to do what needs to be done. So Jack sort of, based on that, isn't probably the best shout for it. I'm not quite sure that there's anybody right now in the squad, sadly, of the younger players who really has the professionalism off the pitch when they think no one's watching, to really put on that armband and carry the title of Arsenal captain on and off the pitch. We've got a lot of great people on the pitch who are great at giving instruction and directing people and telling where to go positionally, but there's a lot more that goes into an armband than just telling somebody that they need to play 3 feet more to the right to prevent this counterattack. And I think that's got to be taken into account. I think that's one of Wenger's strong points, and I probably think it's in their hands of the right people right now.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly put. Tim, I know you wanted to jump in on this, but rather than let you do this, I'm gonna play a straight bat at you instead, to use a cricketing metaphor. You just put in the chat box that you've written a blog about this. So rather than you rushing through, because I'm going to wrap things up so that Jace can get off to duties. We'll call him that, Jace.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Tim, in a moment, if you can get a link for me or just an idea of where your blog is, I'm going to direct people to read it, because that would give you an opportunity for people to read your fine work, and obviously people can have a little scat through. So that's what I'm going to do with that. Jace,
Okay.
Before you obviously you're going to shoot. Is there anybody that you wanted to just shout out to, and I can let you go. Me and Tim can wrap things up.
I do have a quick shout out as the Carolina Railhawks, the professional team that I work for here in North Carolina, actually has a preseason match going on as we speak down in Charleston against the Charleston Battery of USL. So if you'd like to go head over to @RailhawksFC on Twitter, and you can follow the match there. Some good preseason stuff between second and third division teams, and always a good little rivalry, as they're only about 4 hours down the road from us, just down in South Carolina. But yeah, season's about to start. August 4th, we are the kickoff for the league at 1 p.m. Eastern time here in the States. I believe at that time that will be 5 p.m. UK. And you should be able to watch us on ESPN3. So take a shout on ESPN3 and let us know what you think. You'll recognize some of the names if you followed football from the U.S. or even over in the U.K. You'll notice some names. So check us out. That's my one shout today.
Cool. And on that, I will say go Chicago Fire, because they're playing tonight. Probably will lose. Hey, happy days. Jace, I'll let you go because I know you've got to
thank
get
you.
off.
I do. Important duties requires hanging out with the wife and the mother-in-law today, which should be a fun time.
I was going to say, you enjoy that. We'll be thinking
I will.
You.
I will. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for coming on, mate. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Tim. Absolutely.
Cheers for now, Jace. Ta-da.
Have a good one.
Right, Tim, and then there were two. So we'll sort of close things up now. I have got your link, so thank you very much for that, guys. I will post Tim's link via our ABW Twitter feed. I do just need to check with our Blogmeister General Jeff first, because I know we've got some of our work at the moment. So at some point in the next couple of days, I will make sure that Tim gets that retweeted. So look out for that. At the very worst, Tim, it will be on my timeline. So one way or the other, we will get people to have a read of that for you.
I think a couple of people retweeted already. I think Danny did, and I think Jeff might have as well.
Ah, fantastic.
Possibly.
There you go then. There you go. What more can you ask to beat me to it? We definitely want to.
Yep.
Definitely want to get, so obviously anybody that is doing or wants to do any writing for us. I know Jeff's got a lot of really good work coming his way at the moment, so he's snowed under. But as we always say with ABW, if you want to write for us, if there's a piece, if there's something really burning a hole that you want to get out there and you want people to read, give Jeff a follow or give him a nudge on our @BergieBlogs Twitter feed, and when he's got some space and there's a quiet period, I'm pretty sure he'll have a look at your work. So that's open to anyone. The only thing we don't really do is match reports and player profiles, because that's kind of where
leave that to other sites.
Yeah, exactly. We're more highbrow than that, Tim. Is there
exactly?
Is there any sort of closing thoughts that you've got on today's game, or anybody that you'd like to shout to or mention as we wrap things up?
I think a little shout out, I think, to the home supporters today at the match. They were making quite a lot of noise through some stretches of the match, which I know is normally difficult due to, I think, the fairly strict stewards, which I think Raj has brought up before on the podcast, the lack of singing and that. But at least I could hear on the TV broadcast I got, there was actually quite a lot of singing going on. So big ups to all the home supporters there. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows that I do an awful lot of Follower Friday stuff. I put out multiple tweets. Obviously, I'd like to thank you, Kris, for inviting me onto the podcast, and of course, Danny. Is Danny here? Yes? No?
I think he's in bed. I think he's still got a leaky bum. So yeah, there's an image for you, boys and girls. Happy weekend. I think he's all right. I was chatting to him over WhatsApp last night about FIFA, so I think he's on the mend, but he's probably still in bed, because I don't think he got to bed until 6:20 this morning, so he's probably still asleep, bless him.
Have we got any more quick questions in that
I'm just having a quick look, actually. I was going to just see if there's anybody else. Again, as always.
Still there?
Yeah, there's still people here. I was just going to say thank you to everyone that's joined us. There's a few new names pop up. Every time we do this, there's new names and some people returning as well. And obviously Dom's been in as well from our crew. So Akib has actually just joined us as well. So hello, Akib. Akib. Questions wise, people are just chatting amongst themselves, so yeah, we'll leave the questions for there. I'm conscious we've been going for an hour and 20, so we'll wrap things up. But thank you, Tim. I just want to give a sort of a gentleman's nod, as Danny would call it, because he doesn't do shout outs. But I would just like to give a nod to Danny himself. Anyone that doesn't know, myself and Danny generally are the two that put together these radio shows to try and give Gimli a bit of sort of free time to himself, because he does work incredibly hard on the podcast. So myself and Danny put these together, and Danny's entrusted me with doing a lot of the booking and a lot of the arranging of these. So as always, thank you to Danny. And I also want to give a shout to our very own Dom. I mentioned before, he's a very, not only is he a beautiful bastard, but he's also a very hard-working chap, and he's put together something that he's doing about stats with regards to the mythical 30-goal a season striker, and whether it is in fact a myth. And he's come up with some excellent stuff. Now, Dom's not really a bloggy type of person. It's not really his bag, which is absolutely fine. So what I've said to Dom is, if we get an opportunity when we next get a quiet week on the pod or something, and certainly when Dom's on next time, I'm hoping that we can get a segment devoted to it, because it really is excellent stuff that Dom's done. He's taken a lot of his own personal time out to compile some stats, and it makes for a really interesting debate. All those people saying that we need to go and sign a 30-goal a season striker, I think Dom will have some pretty tasty stats to tell you just why we don't need that. So a little shout out to Dom for that one. His work is very undervalued, so if you're not giving Dom a follow, please do. And good evening.
What I can tell you definitely is Cavani is not. Sorry,
no,
Cavani is definitely not that 30-goal a season man. Please,
no,
he really is not.
No, I 100% agree with you on that one, Tim. Don't get me wrong. He's
not even with our midfield of Ozil, Cazorla, and Ramsey wouldn't be able to feed that guy 30 goals in a season. Not a chance.
I totally agree. Don't get me wrong, he's very good, but Nah, not for me. I don't think he'd cut it in the Premier League. But hey, that's what opinions are for at the end of the day. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will draw a line under today. But excuse me, I'll just choke to death first. Cool, sharp and take a breath there. But no, it's still there. Tim, you'll have to talk for a minute while I.
I'll talk for a bit. Okay. Yeah. With our incoming games, I believe we're also playing the bloody Scouse lot quite soon. I think that might be the match. I think 2 matches time. I think we're hosting them, bloody Scouse mob.
Yes.
I'm really hoping now that unfortunately they're out of the Europa League, so all we've got to do is really hope they're not able to turn on a performance. Same thing with tomorrow. There's a lot of games that could significantly impact our season, which are being played tomorrow. You've got that shit up the road playing against that Manx scum who we beat on Monday night. That one really, please, bloody draw. If there's any result that we need there, it's a bloody draw. The other one, those chaff blast bastards in their toilet blue stadium, and they're also playing the guys who wear those new blue nappies. When they run onto the pitch, they got those nice blue nappies, which are most effective for crying and surrounding the referee. I really hope they get a draw as well. I believe they're playing Southampton at home, so that's going to be a tough one. Also, I'd like to just spend about 30 seconds laughing at Gustavo Poyet's Sunderland today. They really were absolutely dreadful. I saw those goals at half time. What was O'Shea doing? That's really some terrible defending going on there at that club. I mean, to ship forward to Aston Villa is... When was the last time Villa scored 4 goals?
I don't think even they can remember, to be honest.
Probably 2008 or something. You know, it's ridiculous. And Sunderland got paced at home. The number of people walking out of the stadium was hilarious. You just had queues of people just leaving. You just saw people just running for the exit. It was like, really, how... Can it get any worse for Poyet? I think he's gone next week, personally. I don't even think they'll get him until the end of the season.
No, I think
I think guillotine's coming down on him, unfortunately. I was actually chatting to a Sunderland supporter on Twitter during the match. I said to her that Harry Redknapp would be available for next season.
That's all we need is him to come back. No, you're absolutely right though. The games tomorrow are worth following. We've done our bit. So our pressure, pressure is off us now. We've done our bit. Now we just sit back and see what the Scouts are playing
Monday.
Yes, Swansea. I think
the Scouts are playing Monday. Yeah, I really hope Swansea can get at least a draw against them.
I agree.
Because frankly, I'd really rather see Swansea in the top lot than that Scouts mob. Really.
Yeah, I agree. Well, now I've stopped joking.
It deserves it nonsense. You don't deserve shit. I
couldn't agree more. They're one of those sides I just hate. I don't know for whatever reason, but yeah. Now I've actually stopped joking. I will properly wrap up this time, so I do apologise there. I took a very sharp intake of breath. Not ever again. Tim, thank you.
It's a smugness of that lot.
It is. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Tim, thank you for joining us tonight. I know I got you at short notice, so thank you very much for coming on.
It's only a pleasure, Kris. I'm always happy to come on and talk the Arsenal. Always happy.
Good stuff.
Brilliant. It was a lovely podcast. Thank you very much to all the folks who have contributed on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all of your questions and comments.
Seconded, absolutely. And if you don't already follow Tim, what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter is @TimJBHarg. That's TIMJBHARG.
There you go, guys. So give them a follow. So thank you very much for all of you joining us. Anyone that arrived late, I know Natasha just said she arrived late. This will go up shortly after we say bye-bye now. So in about 10 minutes or so, you should be able to watch on delay. So I hope you enjoy it. Goon, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I'm just doing my job. I enjoy it. But thank you very much for everyone for joining us. Let's all, fingers crossed for Tuesday. Let's hope we do the business. Not sure if we're going to do a radio show after Monaco, because probably we'll save it for the podcast. Obviously, if it goes horribly wrong and Gimli throws himself off a bridge, that might change. But so look out for our Twitter timeline. Do follow the Bergie blogs. Do interact with our guys, and we will see you, if not next week, we'll see you at the end of next weekend. Thank you all, as always, and good night.